New this morning, Senator Bernie Sanders reportedly set to join the 2020 race. The Hill reports Sanders is expected to announce an exploratory committee in the next week. Politico separately reported yesterday that Sanders has recorded a campaign video announcing his presidential bid. Joining me now is nationally syndicated columnist Adriana Cohen, also a Boston Herald radio host, and Democratic strategist Kristen Hahn, a former communications director for Blue Dog Democrats. Thank you both for joining us this morning. Kristen, I want to start with you. The Democratic field, it's already packed, and at least several more announcements are expected. Is this a case of the more the merrier, or do too many candidates risk splintering the party to the benefit of President Trump?
I mean, I think that I'm all for robust, healthy primaries. So, I say the more the merrier. We need to have a discussion about where we are with the party, but I would also caution a lot of these candidates who are taking a hard left turn that we don't want to alienate a lot of those voters in the middle. What we learned from the midterms this year, one of the big takeaways was that the candidates and the members that came through were actually the more pragmatic, centrist candidates, even though there are some on the far left that are very vocal. So I would, these candidates need to take a look at that, take a lesson, and make sure that they're not alienating the independent voters.
And Adriana, Politico also has a report on the three Democrats Trump campaign that believes that are the most viable, namely Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, and Cory Booker, who they've begun compiling opposition research on them. Do you agree with this? Or are these Democrats the ones who pose the greatest threat to President Trump?
Yeah, I think, it depends what polling we're looking at, because other polls suggest that if Vice President Joe Biden enters the race, that he is at the front runner at 30%. So he's got the name ID. But that being said, it is a super crowded field. And I see this as a disadvantage for Democrats in one respect, and that is because, all these candidates are going to have to fight for money. They're going to have to fight for name ID. They're going to have to fight for delegates, whereas President Trump, he has a huge fundraising advantage. He's already raised $130 million in his first 2 years in office. He certainly obviously has name recognition. He has the infrastructure in place to run a successful re-election campaign. And I think that with Bernie Sanders entering the race, that's really going to hurt Elizabeth Warren, because those are the two leading progressives out there. And that's going to split the vote for both of them.
Kristen, this year the Democratic Party has changed the rules when it comes to superdelegates and what it takes to qualify for a debate. California is moving up on the primary calendar. So who do you think stands the most to gain from these changes that we're seeing?
I think the party, these new rules are healthy for our party. The days of having Iowa and the Midwestern, those types of states be the indicators of who's going to win those are gone. So I think actually the candidates do. I think that the process will be better overall for the candidates as they make their way through it.
The 2020 contenders, they've been making the rounds this weekend, including Amy Klobuchar with campaign stops in Iowa and in Wisconsin. Listen to her talking about her approach to President Trump.
My view is that you just can't go down every rabbit hole with them, right? You just can't. You have to pick your battles, not follow him every place that he wants to go, because he just wants to change the topics. He wants to change the agenda, and we have to have our own optimistic economic agenda for America.
All right, Kristen, how important will that decision about how to approach President Trump, how important do you think that's going to be to voters?
I think it's very important. I do agree with the senator, though, that if you follow him down every single rabbit hole, he controls the message. Our candidates, I think if they're ultimately going to be successful, they need to rise above. And I'll just go back to the comment earlier about the president having obviously the incumbent has an advantage, a natural advantage going into re-election, but I'm not sure that this president has a healthy, robust, competent campaign structure. So I don't think that we're at that much of a disadvantage.
Meanwhile, former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld announced plans to challenge President Trump for the Republican nomination. He made a strong critique of Republicans in Washington. Take a listen.
Our president is simply too unstable to carry out the duties of the highest executive office in the land. They say the president has captured the Republican Party in Washington. As he himself might tweet, sad. It's even sadder that Republicans in Washington, many of them, exhibit all the symptoms of Stockholm syndrome, identifying with their captor.
Adriana, how seriously should President Trump take this?
Not at all. I mean, Bill Weld's, potential candidacy for president is dead on arrival. First of all, 87% of Republicans strongly support our president. And even if we looked at polling after his State of the Union address, which was very well received, even 80% of independents supported, gave him a favorable marks for his speech. The economy is strong. We have historically low unemployment thanks to this administration. There's a lot going right. So for Bill Weld to say that the president's unstable, really, well, how do you grow such a successful economy? Well over 3%, GDP. It hit over 4% last year, and historically low unemployment and everything else he's achieved if you're unstable. I mean, it's just a laughable comment, and it's also insulting to the 63 million Trump supporters who voted for him to say that, we all suffer from Stockholm syndrome. He's not going to go anywhere with those types of, comments. I mean, look how much it hurt Hillary Clinton when she called half the country deplorable. That's what Bill Weld just did, and that's not going to go well with voters.
All right, Adriana Cohen and Kristen Hahn, thank you both for joining us this morning. We appreciate your insights. Coming up,